thank you for coming. First of all, Amma, thank you for doing my presentation. So I'll be talking about careers in public procurement, the view from the Institute. And by the Institute, I mean the Institute for Competition Procurement Studies, where me, Amma, and some of our other colleagues here are part of the team. Just to give you an idea of my background, I'm obviously not British, I'm Portuguese. I did my law degree in Portugal. I practiced as a lawyer in Portugal in the field of public procurement. Then I worked in Spain as a lawyer as well in the field of public procurement. Then I did my PhD in Nottingham, and I ended up here in Bangor. All this related to procurement. So you can see that just by the fact that you have a career in procurement, you can move around a lot if you want to do so. So as Amma has already given you a very good introduction of what is public procurement, I would like to talk about a little bit of what is the unseen side of public procurement. One of the problems that the profession has is that actually it's not a profession. We would like it to be a profession. We would like it on going forward that it would be recognized as you recognize accountants, you recognize public procurers, as you recognize lawyers. But at this moment in time, it doesn't happen. Public procurement is a function where people fall into. So it's not something that you grow up saying, well, I'm studying business to be a public procurer, I'm studying law to be a public procurer. You study business, you study law, and then you ended up, God knows how, by doing public procurement. This is true not only here in the UK, but also across the channel in continental Europe, and certainly in the developing world. This is a problem because what it happens is that procurement is then seen not as a profession on its own merit, but as an auxiliary function to the roles of an organization. So although purchasing and defining how the money of an organization should be spent is very strategic, the people that tend to be involved in those works, in that kind of work, are not developed from the ground up for that kind of role. So I've talked a lot with people here in the UK and also abroad, and people usually, they start with a certain career and then something happens and they're shifted into public procurement. That's usually what happens, with some exceptions, but that is the situation that we have now. That doesn't mean that going forward, as more and more people start looking into procurement as a profession instead of just a function, it's not going to change. I think it's going to change, and it's going to change probably faster than we anticipate. It also helps that nowadays here in the UK and also in other, I would say, mainly developed countries, you've got very good centers of excellence on how to develop public procurement skills in people. Or procurement skills in people in general, but applied to the public sector. So here in the Institute, let's talk a little bit about history. A few years ago, some of my colleagues, one of which is back at the door, back near the door, Kerry Evans, Gary Clifford, and also Professor Dermot Cahill, they were involved on a very big project which was tendered by the Welsh government. Am I correct, Gunther? The tender Wales, the tender wise, yeah. So that was back in 2008, and from that first project that they worked together, the team started to develop new ideas. And a few years down the line, in 2010, they won a massive grant, which we now call Winning in Tender. It is a project funded by the Interreg European funding body. This is a 3.2 million euros project, or pounds, I always get my figures wrong, and it involves us here in Wales, it involves DCU University in Dublin, and also IIPMM, another institution in Dublin. And we're working on different work packages with contracting authorities in Wales and Ireland to improve the practice in public procurement in the two regions. And for the project to be able to achieve this, they needed to recruit people. So they needed to find people to do the jobs. So that's how me and Amma, and also later Stephen, ended up working in the project. In my case, I'm working specifically on the low-value procurement pilot, so I'm worried about how can we make it easier for contracting authorities to advertise low-value contracts, whereas Dr. Amma Ayo is looking at what was the impact from EU regulation in remedies in Welsh and Irish SMEs. That explains how most of us came here to Bangor. The reasons or the ways that we were selected were very, very straightforward. There was a competition, people applied, some people won. I suppose the best won the jobs. I think that's that. I was not involved in the selection process, but I can see that Carrie was, and I'm sure that he's going to say that the best people for the jobs won, the best candidates for the job won. So which means that it is possible for you to find a job if you're good and if you have a good CV and you can put that across the person that is interviewing you. So this is valid not only for positions in academia, but this is also valid for positions in the public sector or in the private sector. As long as you've got the right skills, and I'm going to go through those in a minute, and as long as you can put them forward, obviously you're going to have a good chance of taking that job. Now, from winning in tendering, which is the 3-year project coming to its end at the end of 2013, we created something bigger, something more ambitious, which is the Institute for Competition and Procurement Studies, which is going forward, is going to be the house of everything related with procurement and competition within the School of Law at Bangor University. This is how we're going to move forward. So I wouldn't be surprised that the next time that we win a grant, because we're already working towards the next project, it's going to be an Icps project. It's going to be an Institute for Competition and Procurement Studies project. Which means that we're here now today, and we plan to be here now for the near future. Not only because we've got the research side of things through the project, but because we also have the study side of things in procurement through the masters and through the school in general. So we're here for the long run. As I said, we were selected on skills, and by skills I mean 2 types of skills, the technical skills and the interpersonal skills. The technical skills, and this is valid again, not only for our own selection process that we've gone through, but also for any selection process that you're going to go through. You need to have the right technical skills for the job. If you don't have the right technical skills for the job, it's going to be difficult for you to get it. But that is going to take you only so far. What's going to make the difference is what we call soft skills or interpersonal skills. And this is something that for me was quite apparent when I moved in here, is the way that the people were selected, and the people that were actually selected managed to create a very good working environment. A very ambitious, very hard-working, very focused working environment, but one where having good interpersonal skills allows us to work together and be a lot more efficient than we would be by ourselves. Now, the downside of this is the people that do not fit this mold and have different interpersonal skills or have different soft skills are not going to fit in so well. And we have that happening in the past with us. People that could not adapt to this rhythm of work, they were just not part of the team. So for each organization, you're going to have to find out what is the way that the people operate, and you have to adapt to the way that people operate. So you have to develop your interpersonal skills that are suited to that organization, suited to that institution, instead of just saying, this is the way I am, so everyone around me needs to adapt to the way that I work. I tried to do that. I tried to do that for a long period of time. It didn't work out. The second point about our team here, other than the skills, is that the way that the team was composed was a multidisciplinary team. So we've got people with different skill sets, different technical skill sets that are trying to solve problems together. So there's only 2 people with a PhD in law in the team, so me and Dr. Amayo. All the other team members bring in different skills. So we're not looking for more people with PhDs in law. We needed people with different skills. So we've got Carrie Evans, which has a master's in Icps, so it comes from the private side of things on how people should buy and how people should do private procurement. We've got our project manager, Gary Clifford, which I've just seen, which has a background in computer science and an MBA as well. So these are skill sets that you would not expect to see on a university or at least on a law school, but they are very much part of our fabric and the way that we work. So this is another explanation of how we've been able to do so much in less than 3 years or a little over 3 years, which is we work together as a multidisciplinary team. One of the good things of working here in comparison with some of my previous jobs in the past is there's not a lot of repetition of skills, so there's not a lot of competition of people comparing themselves against the other team members, because everyone has exactly the same skill sets. So they want to see who can progress faster because they're doing the same career and they're on the same career path. That doesn't happen in our team, and that's great, I have to say. Again, your mileage may vary, and in other organizations, it's going to be different. And the thing is, you need to adapt to the organizations more than the organization needs to adapt to you, unless you're coming from the head. And even if you're coming from the head, if you get to be the CEO or the chief exec of an organization, even then, the organization is probably going to change you more than you're going to be able to change the organization. So what are the key skills in public procurement? The technical skills, I'm going to say a good degree in business or law. Amma has been very, very honest in saying that you can get into procurement from other areas. I would say true, but traditionally, or I would say that the easiest way to get there is going to be through these two methods going forward. Either have a good degree in business or law. Then, alternatively, you can have specific knowledge developed through, for example, a CIPS course or an LLM in public procurement. Or a master's in public procurement in general. And there's a few of those around. So there's one here, there's one in Nottingham, there's one in Rome, there's one in Turin, there's one in the US as well, and in Washington, DC. So you can, if you want to get specific knowledge in public procurement, you can learn it from many different sources. So if you're coming from a different background, perhaps one of these masters is going to be a good way for you to transition into public procurement. And then you also have the soft skills, as I said, which in a way they're interpersonal skills. And then I would ask Gunter and everyone from the public sector to ignore what I'm going to say now. You need to learn how to survive office politics. I've dealt a lot with organizations over the last 10 or 12 years that I've been working here and abroad. And it's very, very hard for people to survive office politics. But it's a skill that you only get through the experience of going through that and learning how things work. I'm sure that not everyone here is going to agree with my view, but I'm being very honest on the benefit of the students in the audience. Jobs out there. There's plenty of jobs out there. Remember that on the public sector, every public body is a contracting authority, so they have to spend money, and where you have to spend money, someone needs to spend it. So someone needs to know how to spend that money and make those decisions. And as I said, perhaps because we're talking about a profession that in reality is a function and not a profession in itself as it should be, we have a shortage of skills people in the sector. So it's no surprise that Gunter and the Welsh government are doing a lot of work in getting people from the bottom up, as interns, so that they can get hands-on experience of what is to be public procurement here in Wales. But you're going to see that across the UK and outside the UK as well, there's a huge shortage of skilled persons in public procurement. And this is just the way it is. I think it's going to change. It's going to change, but at this moment in time, this is the current situation. So I wouldn't be surprised that going forward, even though the economy is in a very difficult position, the state has always to spend money in one way or another. It spends more or less, but it has always to spend money. So the best people with the best skills are going to be able to transition into positions in public procurement. On the private sector, I can tell you about my experience as a lawyer. One of the things that I've noticed is, and this was true not only here in the UK, but across continental Europe as well, is that there's a shortage of lawyers with particular or specific expertise in public procurement. A few years ago, I registered on one of those websites that Dr. Ayo has put up. Actually, it wasn't one of those, but it's probably operated by them, which is called Totally Legal. And I inserted a search, which is still active. I don't know, maybe procurement lawyer or procurement solicitor or something. And every week I receive 10, 15 positions open, still open. And the salaries are much bigger than or much higher than in academia. So sometimes I've got that little fairy in my head. Oh, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? But what that tells me is what I was true 3 years ago or 4 years ago when I set up that search is still true today. There's a shortage of lawyers with public procurement expertise. So for you guys doing law, you should take that into account. Then You can also go into academia, and you can do the training in academia, obviously, but you can also go into academia. So sooner or later, you're going to have new job openings here in Bangor. Sooner or later, there's going to be job openings in other institutions in the UK. Birmingham is one of those where procurement is on the radar. Glamorgan, procurement is on the radar, but also more from a business perspective, more than a law perspective. Cardiff, I think, as a center as well, looking at PFI, so Private Finance Initiative. Manchester as a research center in innovation, and it's very much focused in public procurement of innovation. And they're very strong. They're very, very strong, and they work very well. So this is just here in the UK. There's a number of opportunities in academia bubbling up. And as I said, the field is very small. The field of competition is very small. It's very hard to get good candidates for these positions. So if you're looking into a career, that is another option for you going forward. Now, one of the things that I tell to all my students, and I tell them, at the start when I meet them in the first year, and I tell them when they're leaving the third year, is remember, all things being equal, the person with more contacts wins. And more contacts means more contacts not only on your area of expertise or your core area, but also contacts in areas which are complementary. So if you're a law student, having contacts in the business world is going to be helpful. If you're a business student, having contacts on the legal side may be helpful as well. So for you students, start developing a good network of contacts, either with people at the same level of you, so other students, or people like you're seeing here in this room today, that are coming from all walks of life, a number of institutions, a number of organizations, which may help you landing an internship or a job in the future. This doesn't mean that I'm advocating that only people with contacts wins. What I'm telling you is, if you have the contacts, life becomes easier, because you can always rely on those contacts to open a door, send you a CV, something like that. You never know. You never know. So that is my parting advice for you if you want to have a career in public procurement, but it's also valid for any careers out there, I would say, that are related with business and also with academia. So that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.